My name is Gregandcin, and this is a GPU, to be more specific, an EVGA NVIDIA GTX 1080 FTW ACX 3.0. A lot of words, I know. Now you're probably taking a look at it and asking yourself, this looks like a perfectly fine GPU. What the hell is wrong with it? What's with the title of this video? Well, I'll tell you. Yeah, so I have no idea how this happened, but the fan broke off. It's a little dusty, don't pay attention to that. So yeah, this happened one day. Don't know how I didn't notice. The temp seemed fine, but it's not a good idea to run your GPU like this in the slightest. So, what do? The first thought I had was, just replace the fans. Unfortunately, the only fans I can find on eBay come from China, are like almost $40 after tax, and would take a month to get here, and I don't want to have to wait that long. So instead, we got these two things. First off, an NZXT Kraken G12. This basically adapts any Asetek liquid cooler and will let you just plop it onto most GPUs. So hopefully this works with this EVGA 120mm liquid cooler. It was $40, it was on sale, so I said, well, let's do it. The problem is, this is an aftermarket PCB design. If you can tell, the PCB is longer and taller, and it's a little bit of a pain. I don't know if this will work. And besides that, there's also a mid plate which interferes with some of the cooling. It's what's used to cool the VRMs, the VRAM, and all the other fun things that isn't the GPU die. So we're gonna try and see if we can keep the backplate and midplate on. Otherwise, we got this, just some random heat sinks I bought. It was relatively cheap. It might look a little tacky, but let's just do it. So let's get to installing it. First off, we just have to take off 4 screws on the back. That's what keeps the GPU connected to the heatsink. The rest of the screws we'll take off later. Those aren't important right now. Taking it apart, we gotta get off that fan connector. It's very small and it's very stuck in there. I absolutely hate it. So once we're able to get that all off, along with the RGB connector, things kind of go a little bit more smooth, but as you can see, it just takes way too long to get it out. So now that we've got that dealt with, there's a whole bunch of weird goo on the GPU, which I've never noticed before, and I've taken this card apart before, so I have no idea where that came from. We'll just use some isopropyl alcohol to get rid of that goo and the thermal paste that is left on the card. Next up, let's take off that back plate. There was a whole bunch of screws, and they're very small, and they kind of jumped around a lot when I was trying to take them apart, but when we take off the back plate, we see more of the weird goo stuff, both on the GPU itself and on the back plate. So some isopropyl alcohol, just cleaned the back of the card. I wanted to get rid of all that stuff. I have no idea what it is. I'm surprised the card has stayed alive as long as it has. Nothing shorted out though, so far so good, I guess. Next up, we're taking off the mid plate. It's a little bit annoying that we have to get rid of this. It handles all the VRM and memory cooling for the GPU in its stock form, but since we have some other small pieces that'll take care of that for us, we don't need it. It's just going to get in the way of everything else. Taking it off, I'm just noticing more of the goo stuff. It's very weird. It's everywhere, and I don't know why. Let's just go ahead and clean up all that goo and any thermal paste and, just get her all nice and clean for all the stuff that we're about to be putting on. And here's a test fit of the memory modules underneath the bracket. There's a couple of them on the left and right side of the GPU die, and we just want to make sure that those are getting cooled. We don't want to blow up the GPU or anything dumb like that. So let's just go ahead and get all those bad boys on there, shall we? Now that all of the heat sinks are on there, we can go ahead, mount the AIO with the bracket thing, and it's going to be all nice and chill. Unfortunately, I don't have any footage of me putting this inside my PC, and I don't want to take it all out again. So let's just figure out what the results are of this. Alright, boys. It's been a couple months since I've installed this in my computer. Everything you just saw, that was from December. It's April, and all the numbers you're gonna be seeing are from last month, but they're still completely valid. So let's talk them numbers. So my GPU is overclocked 50 hertz on the core, 450 on the memory. It's pretty stable, and it's rocking so nicely. This is the same overclock that I ran the card at, both when it had the working fan and when one of the fans fell off, and it was constantly running at about 80 degrees or so when gaming. But now that it's water cooled, this is a little chillier. So with the card keeping the same overclock, I have both the pump and the fan that are on the GPU itself right now, set at about 60% fixed, and all my system fans are run at high. They're connected to a fan controller inside the case. There's a little switch right here. Look, oh, you can't hear that. The system is audible, but since I have my headphones, even though they're open back, the system noise doesn't really bother me that much. I decided to throw the card into Furmark, which is a GPU stress test. It hammers that GPU, and after about 10 minutes, the card stabilizes at about 58 to 59 degrees, which is pretty great. And we can see the same results when playing Halo Infinite, which hits the GPU pretty hard. It was at about 95 to 96% 1080p with a mix of high, very high settings. There is some dynamic resolution scaling going on so that we never hit below 60 FPS, but it's fine. This is how I normally play the game, and temps are well under control with this. The only unfortunate thing is that I'm going off what the card is giving me, not any temperature probes or anything like that, and the card doesn't report memory temperature, so we just kind of have to pray that the card doesn't crash and everything's doing fine with the small little with the small heat sinks that are on the memory modules and the VRMs. So now that I've had it for a couple months, would I say that it's worth it? There's two real options I would have had if I didn't go with the NZXT Kraken bracket and the AIO. It would have either been to replace the fans, get them off eBay for less than half the price, and the card would have worked just as fine. Of course, temperatures would be, the same as they were when the card was stock. Just different fans. Or I replace this big ol' honkin' thing with an aftermarket heatsink. I believe Arctic Cooling has a whole bunch of them. They're kind of chonkers. It'd either be like the same thickness or even thicker, and then there's a couple other companies that make them where you supply your own fans, and then it's massive. I didn't want to put any more strain on the card, and I wasn't about to buy one of those GPU support brackets, so aesthetically speaking, it doesn't really matter too much to me since there's no window. But I do have some shots of the card with the side panel off, so you can judge how that looks for yourselves. Leave a comment down below if you think it looks good. Both an aftermarket, like massive heatsink, or this AIO option are reusable down the line later, so if I wanted to use the AIO on my CPU, that's totally valid option if I get a new GPU and I don't want to take off the cooler, or I can water cool whatever card I decide to get next. So that's great. That kind of factors into the cost for me personally. And as I said before, no sagging because there's not all that weight on the GPU. It's significantly lighter, just like the pump and the little metal bracket. They don't weigh as much as this chonkin heatsink. Get over here. This whole assembly is so big. And considering that we're in the middle of a GPU shortage, if you're looking to get some extra life out of your card and you're half decent at overclocking or can follow a couple tutorials and bump some numbies up, numbies go up. Oh, the big brain. Then you can extend the lifetime of your card. It's gonna run cooler, and you're not buying a new GPU anytime soon. We both know that, right? So I guess what I'm saying is, if you're fine with the way it looks and you want to try your hand at something relatively novel, give it a try. The games will run better, your card will run cooler, and you have a space heater when wintertime comes around, if you live in one of those areas. So that's going to be today's mild take, guys. If you liked what you saw, hit that like button. If you didn't, hit that dislike button. You won't. There's going to be things on the screen. Click on them. They're videos of mine. Or you can click on that face to subscrizzle, to hit the links down below so you can buy things or follow me on the internets. My name is Gregandcin. I'm out.